guys? So for today's review, I'm going to be talking about a game that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, but I haven't gotten to it because it's such a big game. There's so much in this game that it's just hard to narrow it down to like a 3-minute review. It's not going to be your typical review. It's going to be a little mix of everything. It's going to be I'm going to try to talk a little bit about the style of game. If you guys haven't played this game, I think you guys need to know a little bit about it before I start saying, oh, it's a great game. It's going to be a little different. It's not going to be strict review, but I am going to try to, let you guys know the good and the bad when it comes to this game. Shut up already! What game is it? Dragon Age Origins! So I will be saying mostly what the game is about, the style, the gameplay, and the things that I like about it, the things I don't like about it, and some impressions mixed in there. For those of you that didn't watch the video where I got this autographed and you're actually wondering what that is or who signed that, Inon Zur signed this. He's the composer for Dragon Age. He's an amazing composer. He's done a lot of great music for a lot of great games, especially fantasy games. So that's who signed it, Inon Zur. This is a BioWare game. It came out in 2009, so it's not too old, but it's not very new. It's a fantasy medieval storyline. It's an RPG, and it's more like a classical RPG. It's not like your modern RPGs, kind of like, I guess if you were to compare it to Mass Effect, it's more of an RPG than Mass Effect is. I beat this in about 100 hours, and I did everything. I did all the side quests minus one that I couldn't access, so I think that's pretty much the average for this game. You could beat it faster, but that's only if you don't do the side quests or you do a few side quests, which is not, I don't recommend you to do that, especially with this game. The story is very strong in this game, but also the character development. So it's a very character-driven story. So if you don't like that type of stuff, then this is probably not the type of game for you. There's a lot of talking. For those of you that are like, I don't like to hear talking. Get me right to the battles. It's like, ugh. Those of you that don't like that stuff, don't even touch this game because that's what this game is about. It's about telling a story. It's a great story. It's not like boring cutscenes. No, it's like really good. It's really good stuff. But for those of you that don't like that and just want to like go and kill people and don't care what the story is about, forget it. Don't even play it. Don't touch it. So I'm letting you guys know that right now. Since this is a BioWare game, for those of you that play BioWare games and haven't played this game, your character does not talk. You could choose everything you want to say. You have control over the conversation, but since you don't talk, you have actually more control over the conversation. And at first I was really pissed off about that. I was like, what? That's because I hadn't really played a BioWare game that was like that. So I was like, what? I had just come from playing Mass Effect, and I was like, man, that sucks. Like, I really liked the way that Mass Effect was, and when they said that they weren't going to make your character talk in Dragon Age Origins, it kind of bothered me. But once you start playing it, you don't even feel it. You don't even remember that your character isn't even talking because you have so many options where you're like, oh, this is pretty cool, you know? So you could really focus on your character's personality, especially on the things that they say, because it's not like in Mass Effect where you choose something that you want to say and what it says down there is never what Shepard says. Like they paraphrase it and then Shepard says something else. And sometimes you're like, oh, wait, I didn't want him to say that. Like, I didn't know he was going to say that. But in Dragon Age Origins, what is said down there is exactly what your character is going to say. Not verbally, but, like pretend that's what they said. Your character customization, that's the first thing that you encounter, minus the intro. You could choose your character's gender. You could choose your character's race. You could be a human, an elf, or a dwarf. You could choose your class. So you could be a warrior, a rogue, or a mage. Warriors focus more on defense and strength, while rogues focus more on attack and agility, and mages focus on attack and also buffing. And I'm going to be saying that word a lot, buffing and debuffing, for those of you that don't know what that means. To buff are the characters that can give you, like they put a spell on you and it gives you plus attack or something like that. That's buffing. They buff you up with spells or skills or whatever. Debuffing is the same thing but for enemies. So they put spells on enemies that lower their attack or lower their health or whatever. So that's what the mages focus mostly on. Attack or buffing and debuffing. Not only do you choose your class, but you also choose your specialization. It's kind of like let's say you're a rogue. Specialization just, specializes you in a specific type of rogue. So you could specialize at level 7 and you could specialize again at level 14. Let's just say that you're a rogue. The rogue specializations are assassin, bard, ranger, and duelist. So from the beginning, like when you're making your character, it would be best if you already went into the game knowing what kind of player you want to be, what kind of fighter you want to be. Since you don't specialize in a certain specialization until level 7, that's why you should already be planning ahead, because throughout those 7 levels, if you're not even thinking about what you want to be, you're just going to be putting attributes wherever. And then you're like, oh, I want to be an assassin at level 7. And let's say you've been focusing too much on cunning and not on dexterity. It's going to be like, you're not going to be as strong of an assassin as you could have been. You'd probably be a better bard. You could customize your character's appearance. It's not too... It's a little more advanced than Mass Effect. So it's pretty average when it comes to your character appearance. You could do quite a bit, but some of those quite a bits are kind of like, ew, look ugly, So you could customize your character's skills, spells. To begin with, you start off with, your typical RPG. You start off with a few points to distribute throughout your attributes, your skills, and all that, depending on the type of character that you want to play. You could choose to focus on certain skills like herbalism, so you'd make like potions and stuff like that if you were a mage, like say like a healer, or if you were going to be more of like your attack mage, like your damage dealer, then you would be focusing on like poison making. Rogues could do poison making as well, because they could actually poison their daggers, or they could poison their arrows. You can also make traps. The trap making, that's a pretty big one for like warriors. You could also choose your background. So with your race comes different backgrounds. I'm not going to give any spoilers, so don't worry if you haven't played it. Each origin starts off with their unique conflict, and you end up leaving that conflict to start, to start your quest. Now, you left it unfinished, but you always go back to it. No matter what origin you have, you will always go back to it throughout the game to like have closure. And it makes it so interesting because you go off on your little quest, but it's always this part of you, kind of like, that's who I used to be. It's on your shoulders the whole time. And when you go back to resolve that problem, it's so emotional. It's great. It's so good. So that's one of the things that I love about Origins. You also get different reactions from people depending on your race. Your status also plays a role. So they react to you differently. It's not just like, oh, it's you. No, it depends on your race and your status. People that you meet will talk to you differently. The world or the continent that you're on in Origins is called Ferelden. But you get to travel to different places on Ferelden. A lot of different places, actually. You get to go visit the elves. You get to visit the Dwarven Kingdom. You go to a lot of places. It's not like in Dragon Age 2, because in Dragon Age 2 you were pretty much stuck in Kirkwall and the outskirts of Kirkwall. And Kirkwall is just a city. But in Ferelden, you were on like you were traveling from place to place. As much as Dragon Age 2 focuses a lot on Hawke, This one is also very character driven in a different way. It's like in a bigger arena, it's a bigger world. But it's the impression that you leave on a wider range. Grey Wardens are these like mythical warriors. People talk about them in like legends, and like they're almost like fairy tales. Like people will talk about the Grey Wardens to their kids, that they would ride on griffins and like go out and kill the Darkspawn and the dragons. You become a Grey Warden. There aren't that many where you are. There are more Grey Wardens, but in a different area, in a different continent, like up north, I believe. So where you are, there are only a handful of Grey Wardens when you start off. It just adds to the pressure, like saying you guys are the only ones that can end this blight, and there's only just like a few of you, and you're just like, and you're one of them, and you're like, oh my god. Since this is an RPG, you do level up, so you gain experience by doing side quests, or like every time you kill something, or every time you examine an item, or read a book, or something like that, you get experience. So, like your classic RPG, there's a role for everybody, and in your party, you've got a tank. Tanks are the ones that take all the damage. They're the ones that want to go out there. They're the ones with the sword and shield. They're like, come on, bring it. Your damage dealers could be rogues. They could be other warriors that are more like two-handed instead of the shield. Or also the mages make really good damage dealers as well. You want to always have a healer. You could also have a buff, someone that buffs you up, like a bard. Sometimes healer could do that. They could give you certain buffs. So you could choose whatever you want. However you want your party to work, you could customize it that way. And you have 4 people in your party, including you. So how you arrange that is up to you. So when you're actually in the battle, you could pause the battle and assess the battlefield. You could force strategies. So you could plan ahead. You could control your other party members. Or if you don't want to physically control them and you want to control your own character, but you're like, I want my other party member to react a certain way at a certain situation, you could always give them tactics on their character thing, and you could give them tactics like, when you're being attacked by this, do this, or so you could really have a close control of all your party members. This is one of the reasons why I adore this game, is the companions. The best part is that you get to know so much. You get to build this really strong relationship with your companions. You get to know so much about them. You get to interact with them. You get to talk to them just on a personal basis. You could have romantic relationships like in all BioWare games. You could choose from 4 people. You could choose one of your. There's 4 romances. One of them is just strictly you could only romance her if you're a male. But the other 3, they actually swing, so they're bi. One of those 3, Alistair, he will swing girl or guy. But if you're a guy, it takes some added attention to actually woo Alistair. So they all have their own story to them, like their own backgrounds and their own character specific quests. You have to gain their loyalty. You could give them gifts. Like I said, you could talk to them on a personal level when you're at camp. And this is one of the things that I love the most, is when you're at camp, you go to everybody and you just talk to them like on a personal, like, so who, they start telling you who they are, and personal stuff, and you just find out so many awesome things and funny. Some of them are just so funny, and they just come out of nowhere, and you're just like, whoa. You get so many awesome cutscenes in this game when it comes to your party members. Someone once said that Mass Effect was one of the BioWare games where you were that they really focused on the characters, where you just like, oh, I love those characters, But Dragon Age Origins does it even more. So if you want to compare that to Mass Effect, Dragon Age Origins does the whole character relationship and the character interactions way more. Like, way more than Mass Effect. Another little thing is that if you're in a relationship with someone, you could just stop them wherever. Doesn't matter where you are. I mean, not if you're in a battle, of course, but if you're just walking, you could talk to them, and they'll just like they'll tell you what do you need, and you could just kiss them. So that's it. It just makes the relationship even more believable. Like in Mass Effect, it was there wasn't that much. It just adds to the interaction and the building of that relationship, which I loved. Another thing is party banter. I've gone over this a few times. Your party just all of a sudden starts talking within themselves, not just to you, but all of a sudden they just start talking. And if you're in a relationship with someone, they will start talking about that. Like they'll start talking about the relationship between you and so, or sometimes they'll even question that person and question about you, like so how is it or whatever, do you really love them, or it's so cool. It's like I already said it. One of my favorite things about this game is the characters and the character interactions. That's just it's so much fun. So much fun. You have a lot of options too, so that's another thing that I like. It could be tedious at times, where you're just like sitting there in a freaking menu, like adjusting this and that, and like customizing, putting this accessory on this person, and you're like, wait, no, wait, I should go buy this one instead. Ugh. But it really does help in the long run. So it's like I'm kind of glad that I was able to do that, because in Dragon Age 2 they got rid of that. You couldn't customize your party members to the way that you wanted them, to the way that benefited the whole party in a battle. And that just sucked. Like, I was like, damn, I miss that about Origins. Another thing that I love about it is that the way that it captures you emotionally. I've said this in a few videos. This game made me cry at the end like a baby. Like, I was crying like never before in a game. Where, where you're kind of almost sobbing, where it's like... I was crying. And it's just such an emotional game, and it's mostly because of the relationships that you make with these people. Like you get so attached to them, and that towards the end it's just like it's this. Oh, now the things that I don't like, the graphics aren't that great. I will admit that the graphics are not. They're not bad. But if you try to compare them like to Mass Effect, they're not. They're not. Mass Effect has better graphics. The world around you doesn't look that like where you're like, oh my god, it looks beautiful. No, it doesn't look that great. It doesn't look bad, but it's just like, eh. What is interesting though is that the facial expressions of your companions and of characters is pretty detailed. Like it's not very. You could see them making facial expressions, and it just adds to that moment, especially when it comes to your companions. Alistair, the character Alistair, he does a lot of facial expressions. Like he's very animated when it comes to the way he expresses himself, and you could tell, like when he's being sarcastic, you could tell that he's being sarcastic by just looking at his face. It has some decent graphics, but when it comes to the character expressions on their face, I really liked it. Another thing that bothered me was in battles, I wish there was a way that you could hold your party members back. Because sometimes I wanted to just sneak up and get a good view of the battle and assess what's going on, without having to pause it. You just before you even attack them, where you're like, okay, we've got a few darkspawn over there, but especially when I had Oghren. Now, you guys know Oghren because I've talked about him a lot in videos. When I had Oghren in my party, the little dwarf, oh my god, this guy was crazy in battle. He always had his little huge axe because he was a damage dealer, two-handed. I would be assessing the battle, and then all of a sudden I just see Oghren go whoosh, just run in there. And I'm like, Oghren, damn it, no! So sometimes I wish I could just tell my party members, wait. You could do that in Dragon Age 2. The love scenes are a bit awkward in Origins. They're kind of where you're like, I don't know. I think I wanted to see less. Dragon Age 2 did a little bit better when it comes to they showed a little less in certain ones. But this is kind of awkward in Origins. I don't know. This is weird. They like wanted to take it. They wanted to take the love scenes to like the next level and still show it, but at the same time, they were like they had their underwear on, and you're just like, wait, I don't think that works with that on still. The biggest thing that bothered me about Dragon Age Origins is the loyalty bar. I hated the loyalty bar. It's so annoying because like all BioWare games, you have the choices. You could either be good or you could be bad. Now it's not like in Mass Effect though, where you have your little Paragon thingy and your little renegade thingy, and it'll fill up if you're bad. It's not like that. If you don't, if you say something mean, whatever, you said something mean, but you could also say something nice, or you could vary it. Depends on how you say it. But the reactions you get from people, now that's the different thing. Like you get different reactions from people, and especially your companions. So if you're mean to them, their loyalty bar, they have a little loyalty bar under when you go into the character menu, and it always starts off in the middle. And if you go this way, they like you. They're loyal to you and they love you. If they go this way, they don't like you. But the bad thing about that is that if you always have to be careful with what you say, because if you say anything that will offend them, and sometimes you didn't even know that that was gonna offend them, like you were just trying to be funny, like where I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna joke around with Oghren, because Ogren's that type of character where you just want to joke around with him, but you really couldn't, because if you tried to be sarcastic with him, sometimes he it would say like minus who knows how much points, and he would like his heart, you could see a little broken heart, and you'd be like, what? And the bad thing, it's not just that he won't like you. If that little bar goes way down there, he'll leave. He'll leave your party. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So you have to be really careful with things that you say. You can't be very honest when it comes to that. So even though it doesn't have that whole meter whether you're good or you're bad, you have more of a freedom when it comes to that. You could be whatever you want. You could say whatever you want. But they do have you tied down when it comes to your companions, because you can't really be the way that you want to be, because you have to be careful with everything that you say, or else they'll leave. They improved that in Dragon Age 2, which was very good to see. Um, they could be your rival or they could be your friend. If they were your rival, it's not like they were gonna leave. They just didn't really agree with the way that you did things. And I wish they had done that with Origins. So that's basically it. This is already pretty long. So I think that's what's most important about this game, especially for those of you that haven't played it. I do recommend it a lot, especially if you're an RPG fan. If you really like games that are story driven and have really great character development in it, and are more about the story than actual action, this is a game that you have to play. If you're more on the shooter type of games that aren't very story driven and more driven by like the action, then I think you probably wouldn't like this game, because it's like I said, it focuses a lot on the story. Someone told me that they tried playing Dragon Age 2 and they just couldn't get into it. Dragon Age Origins, in my opinion, is better than Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2 is very good, but Dragon Age Origins is better, way better. It's just a better experience. The story is a lot more captivating, I think. And the characters are way better in Dragon Age Origins. And the characters in Dragon Age Origins are a lot better than the characters in Dragon Age 2. So hopefully that was interesting. I know that was kind of long, but I tried to get a lot of stuff out there for those of you that haven't played the game. I think you need more than just a review. You need to know exactly what you're expecting. If you go into this game not knowing what to expect when it comes to the gameplay, I think some of you will be like, I didn't know it was going to be like that. Screw this. So I want to let you guys know before you even decide whether you want to play it or not, whether this is your type of game or not. Now, as much as I love this game, I don't want to tell everybody to go and play it, because I know this is not for everybody. If you guys have anything to add, feel free. If you have any questions, also go ahead and ask. So that's basically it, and I will talk to you guys later.